E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna Guimwa, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Guimwa Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. I'm Jim Grant, and I got something in my throat. All of us here at this TV station, we've got something going on in our life with Donna and Emerson and Charlene and even Michaela. Michaela's on maternity leave, but we've all got something going on. So I've got to do the show today, and I'm looking forward to spending some great time with you. Most importantly, sharing some great content with you. As you can see on the marquee down there, Youth Making a Difference. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the young inventors and how they came about their inventions and how young they were. My goodness gracious. But before I begin, I want to put our email address up there. I want to make sure I do that before I forgot, because our show is brought to you by The 7 Levels of Truth by Mr. Bill Heinrich. This book here, we know Bill personally, all of us here at the station, and we personally endorse that book because Bill teaches the difference between love and, guess what? The physical things in life, fear. Everything can be classified under fear. So you're either experiencing love in your life or fear in your life. And Bill teaches you the difference and how to rise up to the higher level. You can get this book on Amazon, The 7 Levels of Truth. That's a picture of Mr. Bill right there. Very quickly, he left his life behind him. He walked away from his life because he was so miserable. This book is 30 years in the making of how he was able to find peace, happiness, and love. And this is a great read. It really is. Also, we're brought to you by the 6-Minute Webinar. If you folks are out there and you're struggling with your doing a presentation, or if you're wanting to try to write something, whatever it might be, get in touch with us here at the TV station Inspiration E360 TV, and we will share some great information with you, how you can create a program where you can do your introduction, your body, your clothes, everything like that, all within 6 minutes or less. It can be done, trust me. We do it all the time. And also, too, ladies and gentlemen, we want to share with you about what our new fall programming is all about. On Mondays, every Monday from now to the end of the year, we will be covering making a difference in business. That's huge. This is going to be aimed at the entrepreneur, the solopreneur, and this is going to be some helpful hints how to do some networking, how to do some marketing. This is not a sales presentation show at all. But if you know of someone who's got some great content who can contribute to that, or would like to talk to us about being a guest on our show, please give us an email there at inspirationd360tv.com. Also on Tuesdays, this was a great idea that someone else come up with. It wasn't me. But finding health naturally. This on every Tuesday, we're going to be covering things about natural health, finding things in the natural world that can be beneficial to you. So please be sure and tune in for that. And of course, today, Youth Making a Difference. Today, our focus is going to be on young inventors, but this show has 2 different types of sides to it, if I can use that phrase. Number one, of course, we're going to talk about the young people, the young entrepreneurs, the young inventors today. But also, too, this show is also available for folks who are mentors to our young people to help them find a pathway. So if you or someone you know that falls into that category, We want to hear their story. We want them to be able to share their story on TV with us and share how they became a mentor. This may inspire someone else to become a mentor because all of our youth, they need good, positive mentors to look up to. Thursday is a fun, fun, fun day. Some of you folks out there in TV land want to say, now I need that email address, inspiration@e360tv.com, because we're going to cover every Thursday pets we love. Now, for you folks out there in TV land, if you have a real short, when I say short, 30-second to maybe 1 minute long video of your beloved pet doing some funny things or doing something heroic or unusual, please send us the clip. We will be glad to take a look at it. And if we decide to use it, we will definitely let you know. And therefore, you can be able to tell everyone, you can brag about it. Okay, we're talking about our pets. We can brag about our pets, right? My little baby was on TV, and that's a fact. Also on every Friday, we're going to be having and sharing information on women in leadership. Really looking forward to that series. It's going to be a great series. As you can see, all of these individual daily programs are very descriptive in what they deliver. But before we get started today, we're going to have a little fun about the national world that we live in today. This is something that we should practice every day of our life. Today is the World Gratitude Day. And it reminds us that we should be grateful, not only for what we have, but show our gratefulness for others that's in our lives that make a difference in our lives. Let them know that we're thinking of them, we care about them, and that sort of thing. The history of World Gratitude Day, it dates back to 1965. It was invented by, I guess that's Sri S-R-I, Chinmoy. He was a spiritual leader and a meditation teacher. It was conceived at the Thanksgiving dinner in the United Nations meditation room. So this is a wonderful day, and every day is a wonderful day for us to remember how grateful we are, show our gratitude not only for what we have, but also for those in our lives. Today is also something that hits very home to me. My brother suffers from this. This is World Alzheimer's Day. And this is a day that's celebrated on September 21st each year. And it concentrates on the awareness of letting us be more educated about Alzheimer's and the advances that they're making there, because that is a very, you lose the person. My brother's in great health, but we're slowly losing the person. And that hurts. It really does. So having a day like this to recognize and thank those that's going the extra mile to find, cures, if we can, at least good treatments, good positive treatments for those who are suffering Alzheimer's, because like in any disease, the patient, in this case with Alzheimer's, they're suffering from it, but they eventually do not realize it. But the family is aware of it 24/7. That's true with cancer, leukemia, the list goes on and on and on. So we want to remember today is National World Alzheimer's Day. Now, let's talk about something nice. How many of you folks out there love or enjoy pecan cookies? Oh, my goodness. I think they were, that is just a special, special treat. I love anything with pecans in it, basically. And today is a National Pecan Cookie Day. And it's a delicious treat. I mean, it's one of those treats when you eat one, you just can't, they're like potato chips. You just can't set them down. They're just fantastic. And the taste that they bring, oh my goodness, whoever invented, pecan cookies, there is a special place in heaven for you. Today, I did not know this, but today is also Miniature Golf Day. Now, this is not to be confused with the National Miniature Golf Day, but miniature golf was actually invented many years ago over in Scotland. It goes back into the 19th century, which is back in the 1800s. And the reason it was invented, some of you folks are going to get a kick out of this. It was invented because it was considered to be unladylike for a lady to swing a club and raise a club above the shoulder level. So miniature golf was invented so that ladies could participate and enjoy miniature golf or enjoy the game of golf and not raise the club above their shoulder. I mean, I'm not going to say anything. I just find that is ridiculous. But anyway, today is miniature golf. It is a fun game to play. You see it a lot at different parks and things like that. And it's always fun to play with your family, especially with kids and all that. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing that was invented. Also, we covered a little bit this yesterday with Joel Peterson on the show about gut health. If you missed that episode, it's on our YouTube channel. It's on our Facebook page. It's also on our website. And you can reach our website by ourtvshow.live. I'll put that link up here. Let me find it right quick. Here it is, ourtvshow.live. And on this particular day, about National Cat and Dog Gut Health Awareness. And I'm not going to have much time to go into it today, but one of the true signs that I've seen in my dogs, and you've probably seen in your dogs, is when they start licking or biting their feet. That is a definite sign that their gut health is out of balance, and you need to take a look at that. And the veterinarian's website, veterinarians.org, has a lot of information on that. So you might want to talk with your veterinarian about that, because if that's an external sign of a more internal serious problem that's going on. And today we're going to be talking about some young adults who have really made a difference in this world, and their inventions kind of like, they shock me sometimes as I looked over the material today. One of the individuals I want to cover is a guy by the name of Phil Farnsworth. Phil was a guy that actually invented television and the initial part of the television. And he was only 14 years of age when he first drew up his first sketch. He was so far advanced that they had to make prototypes of the tubes for the video tubes for the TV to become a reality. That's how far advanced he was. It kind of reminds me of the story of Heidi Lamar and her husband. She got the idea of watching her child play the keyboard on creating a radio that could hop frequencies. And the problem was she was so far ahead of herself, and she tried to sell it to the Navy, but she was up here and they weren't even in the basement. They were still underground. The problem with it at that day and back in that day and time was that we still had vacuum tubes, and we need to be more digital with electronic equipment, transistors and that sort of thing, because back in those days, the only thing available was analog, and analog cannot support that type of invention. And so it's because of Heidi Lamar as this invention that her and her husband created of frequency hopping and all that. That's why today we have cell phones. But getting back to young Philo Farnsworth at 14, that's when he started developing his own sketches. And while the television set has evolved over many years, Farnsworth's original invention helped to make it more intriguing and more viable and available. The earliest prototypes of his youth can be found in a museum in his hometown in Idaho. And Farnsworth, he's quite a young man. He excelled in chemistry. He excelled in physics. And it was his physics teacher who encouraged him. And that's something we all need to do whenever, regardless of age, but especially with young people, when they have an idea, if they see something and it gets their wheels in their mind turning and they think, hey, I could do something for a special need there. We need to be supportive of that. Because I heard Les Brown one time in Orlando. I was down there, and Les was the one on stage, and he asked a question. he says, where is the richest place on planet Earth? And the audience was silent. And we're talking about a bunch of people. And I don't know how many people were there, but it was a bunch. It was a small multitude of people, you might say, inside of that floor he was speaking on. And then Les said very quietly, he says, ladies and gentlemen, it's the cemetery. Because there is where you'll see all of the books that were never written. It is there that you will see all of the dreams that were never lived. It is there that you will find all of the inventions that were never invented or created. And that's true because each one of us, I've heard it said, and it's true, each one of us have a book in us. Now, a lot of you folks out there in TV land would go, you've got to be kidding me. But there's a lot of things that you've experienced down your pathway of life that if you recorded and shared with someone else, it could really bless them. And that's what this teacher did with Philo. He saw the potential. He may not have understood it, but he encouraged him to go forward and pursue his dream, his interest, and what he was thinking. And that's exactly what Philo did. So that's really a tremendous lesson for us all to be able to look at someone like that and say, wow, that's really something. Here was something that shocked me. Louis Braille. We're all familiar with the Braille system. We're all familiar with it's the system that allows a blind person to be able to read and communicate. Did you know that Louis Braille, the inventor of this, created this when he was 12 years old because he was blind? He saw, he saw a need. He understood the need that even though he was blind and other children were blind, he was in a school for blind students, and he knew that they needed something more. And so he created it when he was 12 years of age. And of course, his first creation was rough, but it advanced from there. But it was 12 years of age when he actually started the wheels in motion to create the Braille system as we know it today. In his life, he was working in his dad's shop, a leather shop, and an awl is a very sharp tool, and somehow or another it punctured one eye, and it created an infection in the eye. He lost sight in that eye, and the infection traveled over to the other eye, and that's how he became blind. But even though he was blind, he could see the need that people needed to be able to read and write and that sort of thing and communicate, because that was one thing he really wanted to do, was be able to communicate. And he was able to accomplish that. But just thanks to this young man, he changed the world for reading and writing for the blind and people that cannot see. And that's a wonderful, wonderful invention. And only 12 years of age. My goodness gracious. And when we think about Alexander Graham Bell, get my tongue going here, we normally think of an older fellow. But a lot of people don't realize that as a young boy, he was very curious. He had this, he had this love for ventriloquism and things of this nature. And he was only at the age of 12, he built a homemade device that combined rotating pallets with a set of brushes on it to be able to dehusk corn. And that shows you how sharp his mind was. And then later on, he developed his first very rough, very crude telephone. And we normally think that he was an older fella or a mature man, but no, he wasn't. He was very intrigued with ventriloquism, voice tricks, and all that. And it's just amazing because at the age of 12, when he invented this dehusking machine, that's when his mother started to lose her hearing. And that was the need that he saw to be able to help people hear better. And that was his first original invention, was a telephone. And I find that very, very interesting. And let me ask you a question out there in TV land. I know that you may know, I should say, some of the young people out there who are inventors. I met a young man over at a fair. Actually, it was we went to a scarecrow festival, is what it was. And this young man, he saw a need, and he was only 10, I think it was. And we wanted to have him on TV. We may get him on this show on a Wednesday, if I can track him back down again. But he saw a need to create and make his own soap because his mother had a reaction, I think it was, or an allergy to some of the soaps. And that started his little mind to turning, and he's got a little business now. So the reason why I mention that, if you know of a young inventor like that would like to be on TV and would like to share their story and their journey of how this idea came to them and how they turned a dream into reality, please let us know. We would love to hear from them. Just send us an email at inspiratione360tv.com. It comes into the radio, to the TV station here, and our folks, our staff, someone will get it, and we will make sure we get back with you on that, because that's what this show is all about. It's about getting the word out, letting the little guy have a voice. And I don't mean that little guy in a child type way, but the average person just like me and you don't normally get a stage. This is why this show was created. Another young lady, my goodness gracious, I got to talk about her. Her name is Rebecca or Becky Schrader. And she's an American inventor. She is one of the youngest females to be granted a U.S. patent. When she was 10 years old, she thought of using a backing sheet of phosphorus-lined paper, and it could be placed under writing paper, and this would allow her to be able to write without any light available. And she was granted a patent on August the 27th, 1974, and she was only 12 years old. Now, the formal title that she used in her invention was the luminous backing sheet for writing in the dark. Very descriptive of what she invented, and what became known as the glow sheet. NASA actually showed an interest in it because they were looking into something like that since they were working on a similar idea. And she went on to receive a total of 10 patents for that one product. The first one was just her original idea, and 9 more followed because she made more improvements. Her glow sheet was used by nurses working in hospitals. It is used by nurses working in hospitals that want to be able to record something, not turn on a light and wake up the patient, that sort of thing. And it's also used for sailors in the Navy up above on the deck of the ship to not have a light up there so they can write and record whatever they needed to. She also created a version that uses batteries called the Glow Panel. She sold her inventions through the company she created, she called BJ Products in Toledo, Ohio. And her father is a patent attorney, so that explains why she had 10 patents on that thing. But in August 1975, she received her second patent, and she has received many more patents since that invention. And she is featured, listen to this, you ladies are going to like this. She is featured in a children's non-fictional book called, are you ready? Girls Think of Everything. Oh, I know some of you ladies out there are really like that. That's really amazing, isn't it? And when it comes to these young people's minds and what they invent and all that, it's just amazing because they see a need, and many times grown-ups never see the need. And there was a young man by the name of Chester Greenwood. And Chester Greenwood, he loved playing outdoors in the wintertime. He loved ice skating. And he was 14 or 15 years of age, and he got tired of his ears just growing freezing cold when he was out there ice skating. So he got with his grandmother, and they took some very soft material and with a wire device, and he created the first earmuffs to keep his ears warm. And 3 years later, in 1877, he got a patent for what's called ear mufflers at that time, which sold out in tens of thousands per year. And when he died in 1937, he had sold more than 250,000 earmuffs. And when you think about something like that, it's really amazing that here a young person saw a need that adults could not see. And when it comes to Horatio Adams, here's another young man. He was only 16 years of age, and he had bought some Mexican gum, I guess it is. He tried using it as a rubber substitute for some things around the house. He discovered, though, how chewable it was, and also that it could be flavored. And this was his eureka moment. And he took this product and he modified it into a series of chewable balls, it says here. And we now know this product that he invented is what's called bubble gum. He went ahead and sold his bubble gum, eventually making a profit from his venture. His bubble gum was eventually adapted by other people, including his dad, Thomas Adams, who is usually credited for this invention, but her son Horatio is the one that came up with it. And I really get a kick out of sharing this information about young people. And I'm going to shift the gear here and get a little bit more modern. I think everyone, most people anyway, have heard the name of Mark Zuckerberg. And when you think of young inventors, his name normally rises to the top. And perhaps he's well known because just before his 20th birthday, Mark launched Facebook. Facebook got started back in 2004 with his fellow students at Harvard University. As I understand it, the original intent was for the Harvard students to be able to have kind of like an annual, if you may, or a live book so they could keep track of each other. But that's what happens many times in life. Sometimes the energy behind something gets behind it and it just takes it to a new level that the inventors never expected. And that's exactly what happened to Facebook. Facebook hit the 1 million user mark by December of 2004. And by September 2017, Facebook had 2.07 billion monthly active users worldwide. And Zuckerberg arguably transformed the way we interact with the world, providing a microscope into each individual life. And the site has evolved to become an advertising powerhouse. And it was reported that $39.9 billion in ad revenue was generated in 2017. Zuckerberg himself is now worth about $60 billion, round figures, according to Forbes. And Matt Mullenweg. Matt was a guy who actually, we use his product on our website. He created the world's very first user-managed system in 2003 that the world knows as WordPress. And at age 19, Mullenweg, his content management system opened up the floor to billions of people looking for a window to the outside world. While other websites have made attempts at a similar format, WordPress remains unique. It leads the pack, and everyone from the Rolling Stones to the Republican Party uses it. The company's value is over $1 billion. We use WordPress on our website, ladies and gentlemen, because websites are normally they're kind of like a one and done deal. Once you put something there, it's there until you go in and update it. But we have an app that pulls all of our live programs off of Facebook, like this show here will be up there in 2 or 3 hours after we finish. But it will pull that program up there and put it on our website, which is operated by WordPress. It really makes it kind of neat. Robert Heft is an individual. It all started with an assignment in history. As a schoolboy back in 1958 in Ohio, he started a task that would lead to something bigger, because his original task turned out to be bigger than what he was originally thinking. He tackled redesigning the American flag. because at that time, growing up, I remember when the American flag had 48 stars. I think there was 6 rows deep and 8 stars across, and that 6 times 8 is 48, right? We remember that from our old multiplication tables day. But he come up after Hawaii and Alaska became states. Now there were 50, so he had to redesign the American flag. And he did it from scraps of material in his basement of his grandparents' home. He made the flag, and his teacher awarded him a B minus on it. And young Heft gave his design to the White House to then President Eisenhower, who was extremely impressed with this young man's work. And Heft stood back and watched his flag raised for the very first time in Washington, D.C. on the 4th of July of 1960. This is the flag that many people salute, and the military personnel salute, which I do. And it made Heft a person of great remembrance. He was a young inventor that had huge ideas, and these ideals that he set for himself actually worked. Here's a young lady that I found kind of interesting, Mary Shelley. Have you ever heard her name? She was 18 years of age. She is the creator of the Frankenstein's monster. But more than likely, this was not only her creation, but some attributed Shelley to being one of the youngest inventors in the science fiction that we know of today. She took her Gothic and modern technology to create a story that was inspired by her travels around Europe. And remembering Shelley's background of romantic or backdrop of romantic poetry in a man's world, she was a female pioneer of literature and is one of many reasons why her name still survives today. And when we talk about the calculator, the first mechanical prototype was created by Blaise Pascal. He was a mathematician and physicist, and he was well known for a reputation for inventors. But while he was a teenager in 1642, he created a device which could add and subtract inputs using a wheel-based system. It was a simple calculator that was known by this invention in modern times. And you think about how much energy that took and how much vision it is to be able to turn those wheels, the mental wheels as well as the physical wheels, to be able to create complex, mathematical equations from adding to subtracting. And that was in the very early on. And then, of course, I've got to talk about 2 young teenagers back in 1933. This kind of shocked me some, ladies and gentlemen. But Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster came up with an illustrated story that they call The Reign of the Superman. Now, the first Superman, the one that they actually created, was not the good guy that we associate with Superman today. It was a telepathic villain with a bald head, and he was much different than the hero that we see today in the movies and in the comic books. This is because science fiction fans, Siegel and Schuster, had originally written the sketch for science fiction, The Advance Guard of Future Civilization. The first appearance of this character was in Action Comics back in 1930. His renowned acts traveled to Kosovo to teach children and supporting the propaganda of World War II. And of course, Superman that we know today, I remember back in the 50s, I was a huge fan, late 50s, I was a huge fan of Superman. And in 1958, I think I was 10 or might have been 11 when he died, but I couldn't believe Superman was dead. I mean, that just blew my mind that he died from a bullet wound, because everything I saw on TV, they could, he'd stand there with his hands like that on his sides by his sides right above his hips. And, bullets would be firing at him and they wouldn't even penetrate him. And in real life, for him to be killed by a bullet, that really, rattled me. And it goes to show us very clearly how young minds can be molded into positive or negative things. To me, Superman was a Superman. He was my hero. And to lose him like that was very, I wouldn't say it was devastating. I was just shocked, if I remember correctly. I couldn't believe it. And today, with some of the things that kids see on TV and on the internet, we need to be, as parents and more mature Americans, mentors around them, we need to be more careful of what they see and put in their mind, because some of the things that they see and put in their minds, let's be honest, it's not good. There's no need to beat around the bush about it or anything like that. And we talked about, some of the inventors here. Let me see if I skipped one here. Oh, yeah. Frank Epperson. This really was more of an accident than it was a invention, you might say. But when he was 11 years of age, Frank Epperson, he's credited with inventing the popsicle. But it was, as it says, an accidental innovation. It wasn't a dream come true, anything like that. He was mixing some water and some sugary powdered soda outside their house using a stirring stick and on the inside to mix it up. He went inside and he forgot about the mixture. It was very cold outside. So the next morning when he woke up, he remembered it. He goes out and guess what? It's frozen. So he decided he was going to go ahead and eat it anyway. And hey, this is pretty good, And he ate the product and he first called it the Epicycle. But fortunately, whoever changed the name, it doesn't say. But fortunately, we know it as the popsicle today. And he expanded, he started selling it and all that, and he expanded sales beyond the neighborhood in 1923. He applied for a patent proceeding to add more flavors, and truly he commercialized the product. And when we think about all of these young people, my goodness gracious, that's why we should encourage young people to have a creative mind. And I think it's very important for children to be able to get pieces of paper and crayons or pencils or whatever, markers, whatever it might be, and just let them, create or draw what they see in their minds. I know every kid's not going to be an artist. We know that. But that's not the point. The point of it is for them to exercise the thinking, get the mental wheels up there turning. And George Nilsson was an individual like that. He was 16 years of age when he invented this invention I'll mention here in a few minutes. But what was interesting about George Nilsson was that he went to a circus and he saw the way the people could fly on the flying trapeze. And he was a gymnast, and that got him to thinking. And he wanted to be able to create something that could help him, enhance his muscles and all that. And he noticed that the flying trapeze, they had safety nets. And these safety nets had this big elastic bed, and it was there for them to rebound off of and also perform tricks once they came down or whatever. And we've all seen circus performers. When they come down, they do the flip and all that off of the safety net there. But that got his wheels to turning. And in 1934, him and his coach, Larry Griswold, they built the prototype, what's called known as the trampoline. And they built it from angle iron, and they used a canvas bed with rubber springs. And he used it, Nilsson used it to help him with his training. And he also used it to entertain children at summer camp. After he graduated in business studies in 1937, Nilsson and two of his friends toured the United States of America and Mexico. And they performed at fairs and carnivals. And while in Mexico, he heard the word trampoline. That was Spanish for springboard. And he liked that name. And that's how the trampoline became known as the trampoline. And he trademarked the word. And he built a few trampolines and pronounced the sale of his trampolines by touring performances, which did gradually increase sales. In 1941, he and Griswold, they set up the a company in Cedar Rapids. And during World War II, the trampoline was also used to train pilots by getting them used to orientating themselves in the air. And it's really amazing because my daughter has a trampoline, and it's been many years since I've been on it, but it's a different feel altogether. It really is. You have to develop, your balance and all that and a feel for it. And another individual I'd like to mention is back in 1865, George Westinghouse. He was only 19 years old when he got a patent for his invention in the transport industry. He noticed that rail engines could be improved by using compressed air to create a sturdier movement. And this could help not only with propelling an engine, but also making it easier for the train to stop. And in his mind, he visualized actually working on an overdrive, causing him to come up with several other inventions, such as a valve that would allow safe distribution of natural gas to homes and transformers, which helps distribute alternating electrical currents in wide networks. And this is very huge because when you see a transformer outside of your house that provides electricity to your house, it goes through what's called, or used to be called, I guess it's still called that, a step-down transformer, because there's no way they could deliver all that high voltage into your house that only uses at the maximum maybe 220 and 110 voltage. That would fry the wires. Number one, it would create a fire and everything else. So you can see how this one patent that he had, or one idea, it jelly rolled into other things. And Igor Sikorsky, we know him. People that served in the military, Sikorsky, and people are very familiar with Sikorsky and inventing the helicopter. He was only 20 years of age when he did that. That was back in 1909. When you think about the early 20th century, all of the inventions that were coming out, the new improvements in cars, because cars were first invented back in the 19th century. A lot of people think Henry Ford invented the first automobile. No, he didn't. He invented the first assembly line, and he had a lot of great contributions to that, his engineers and all that. But he did not invent the first car. But Igor Sikorsky, back in 1909, he invented a helicopter when he was just 20 years of age. When similar machines had been considered well before then, he came up with a better idea because there was a lot of people trying to invent the helicopter before that. You might see some of the YouTube videos. We've seen all kind of gizmos and ideas. You've seen airplanes trying to, fly by flapping their wings like a bird, and all sorts of nutsy things that we know as everyday people that would never work. But back then, they didn't have anything to measure it by. And that's what makes it so unique inside the mind when a person, young or old, can sit down and have a special vision of how something can work. And that's exactly what Sikorsky did. He had a much better idea. He found that an engine similar to what was used in an airplane could be installed in a small square body, but with a series of propellers at the top rather than on the wings or in the front. And a year later, he perfected the design so that it could be handled by a pilot. Because of his brilliance and his foresight, Sikorsky helped develop a strong machine that was easy to be used in a number of ways. Later on, he also developed a 4-engine airplane. And so his contribution to to this world of airplanes and helicopters has been tremendous, because you think about, and I'd like to mention another guy. This guy is not young, but he saw what the helicopter could do. And that gentleman was Dr. Red Duke, and he was the one that had created in Houston area, especially in Texas, the first life flight to be able to transport people who were injured at the job, or mainly injured in car accidents and things of this nature, to be able to get a helicopter out there. Because many times the traffic's backed up. Even the police or the emergency vehicles have trouble getting to the site. And with the helicopter, you just fly right over that and land wherever you want to, or wherever you're able to there. And take the injured person and put them in the helicopter and fly them back to to the hospital. And Dr. Red Duke saw that, and that was very creative. And that came about in the early 70s. I want to say around 74, mid 70s, 74, 75, something like that. And we don't know for sure, but Dr. Red Duke may have got his idea from the Vietnam War when they would bring in the Huey helicopter, what's also known as the Slick, to transport troops in and out. It was the Huey helicopter is a workhorse helicopter. That's exactly what it is. It was used to transport troops, goods. It was also used for medical evacuation, which has saved a lot of lives. And so it's really important for us to, think about these inventions, the theory behind them, and how they were able to come up with something. And of course, Samuel Colt, he's known for the Colt revolvers. And I know a lot of people anti-gun and all that. We're not talking about that, but we're talking about a 16-year-old man who developed a prominent firearm that bore his name. He was able to develop the Colt firearm thanks to explosive studies he had done earlier. And because of his experience making fireworks when he was younger, he developed a 45 caliber revolver that is used for police duties nowadays. And then he worked on a few different patterns and platforms, developed a prototype that was streamlined, but still easy for police officers to use. Excuse me a minute. Had to get me a good drink. But it's also, it would be a few years later before it became popular, but near the turn of the 20th century. But he sold 1,000 of his guns to the Texas Rangers for use in the Mexican-American War. Ever since then, his Colt revolver has been used as a standard by many police departments and many others around the world. And we talk about a guy by the name of this guy here, Joseph Bombardier. It's amazing. He was enjoying the winter in Quebec, and Joseph Bombardier felt that there had to be an easier way for vehicles to move through the snow. And in 1922, he was only 15 years of age when he modified an old Model T with a sleigh frame on it. Now just picture this. He takes an old car, he puts a sled frame under it, and he's 15 years of age. He hasn't had any type of mechanical training, so to speak, or engineering or anything like that. And he also used a propeller to get the vehicle moving. And a few years later, he formed his own snowmobile company, which worked with vehicles based around his original design. Although the snowmobile has been heavily modified over the years, to this day, Joseph Bombardier, his work has been proven, and it's very, very easy to follow, and it's very, very easy to utilize because he established the basic mechanics, just like cars today. I mean, cars today, as opposed to the ones made back in, let's say, 1910, for example, they still have four wheels and a steering wheel, right? And I've got a cat down here bothering me, so please excuse me. But the mechanics and what he developed there in his division to be able to create a vehicle that could go through snow, the basic principles that he invented are still applied today. And that's one thing that really inspires me about the young people, the young inventors especially, because there's a lot of young people around who come up with brilliant ideas. They see a need, they see something that inspires them, and they use their creative juices. And that's something we should always encourage and enable a child to. It's okay to try, it's okay to fail, but it's never okay to quit. Because I've never known or read of any inventor anywhere who made something perfect the first time. It just doesn't happen. So therefore, that teaches them perseverance. It teaches them patience. It teaches them how to keep on keeping on when the going gets tough. And that's extremely, extremely important for us to encourage our young people. Again, before we close, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for putting up with me and my throat today. But again, on Mondays, please keep this in mind. Every single Monday, we're going to be covering making a difference in business. And we've got some guests coming on. So it's just not me talking or anything like that, or just me and Donna. And when it comes to making a difference in business, this is mainly for the home-based business person. Whether you call yourself an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, whatever, we want to also invite some of you entrepreneurs and solo inventors, solo inventors, yeah, you invented your business, right? Solopreneurs, to contact us and let us visit with you and about being a guest here on our show. You can email us there at Inspiration E360 TV. This is what this show is about on Mondays. Then, of course, Tuesdays, oh my goodness gracious, finding health naturally. That's something that's pretty hot with me, especially after I had my heart attack and open heart surgery. I'm coming up on close to, well, next month will be my 1 year anniversary since I had my heart attack, and I had my surgery the following Monday on November the 1st. But finding health naturally, that's going to be dedicated every single Tuesday. If you know of someone, or if you know of a company that's got great products, have them contact us, because we'd like to hear about, how they came about creating their company and that sort of thing. Also, every Wednesday, Youth Making a Difference. This is not only about young people who saw a need and created something, or they went into business for themselves, or they were young inventors like we covered today, but it's also for you folks out there who are mentors. And we feel that this is a very necessary type of program for us to produce, because it can encourage other people to become mentors to younger people, because our young people, they need some good, positive mentorship out there. There's enough doom, there's enough gloom, there's enough hatred for 20-year-olds, okay? We need to understand that we're all brothers and sisters, and we need to love one another and be respectful of one another. And that comes through positive leadership. And every single person that I think I know, if you ask them if they had a mentor, they could say yes. It could be a teacher, it could have been a coach, it could have been, anybody in their life. But most people that I know of, I've never heard a person say, I never had a mentor growing up. But they do need some good, positive mentors, and not some of the stuff they see out there. Of course, Thursdays, again, Pets We Love. Hey, you know what that show's about? It's about our babies. Please get in touch with us. Send us a short clip and a brief message about your pet. And if we use that clip on there, we'll let you know. And then that way you get bragging rights that your pet was on TV. And of course, Friday, Women in Leadership. That is huge. If you're a lady out there and you've got, you want to share your story of how you became a leader, and because leadership really is not just saying, hey, follow me. It's about getting people to understand and buy into, if I can use that phrase, buy into what you believe in and want to accomplish the same goal that you're setting out to accomplish. That's what leadership is. And leadership is also a system that's set up to design. So if you're sick, like in our case, everybody here except for me, they got something going on that they could not be here with me today. Donna could not be with me. Emerson could not be with me. Charlene could not be with me. Of course, Michaela, she's still on maternity leave with her newborn. But the show must go on. So in your life, when you create a leadership program and you have an organization, I don't care if it's profit, nonprofit, I don't care if it's full-time, part-time, you have to have the pieces in place so that if somebody cannot do something, there's someone there that can automatically pick up the baton and carry on. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Donna and I will be back tomorrow. We're going to be talking about pets that we love. We're going to be sharing some great stories with you. Most importantly, please share the show with others. Thank you so very much for tuning in. And most importantly, remember to love yourself first, then you can love others. And please give yourself grace. We forgive others left and right. I do all the time. I'm little things, nothing major. But I'm usually more harder on myself. Are you like that too? I guess we both got something to work on. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you again for tuning in. Have a blessed day.